now.
Okay, hello everyone. So let me start with a brief introduction of myself. So my name is Manish, and I have been close to 15 plus years of experience in the IT industry, and I work as an enterprise agile coach, helping team in getting speed up in their agile adoption journey. Okay, so in today's webinar, we'll be covering brief concepts about the Kanban method. We'll also talk about how Kanban and the agile principle fits with each other. We'll get a little deep dive on the Kanban methodology and various principles and properties related to it. And then also we'll be using a tool to create a Kanban board so that you all get an idea about how actually it works. And then we'll open up for the question and answer if you have any doubt. Hey Abhishek, quick suggestion. I see a background noise. Can you just mute all the participants, and whoever has questions, they can just unmute if you want to speak. Perfect. So let's get into the introduction of the Kanban.
Yeah, actually, I want to speak.
Is there a question?
Yeah. Actually, this there is an option to record this video, but it is showing that please request the recording permission from the meeting host. How can you provide me this permission for the recording this session?
The recording is already done by Tech Canvas.
Okay, means I just wanted to have it for future reference in case today I am going through this session, I may forget certain things.
I'm not sure if the participant will be able to record using the meeting link.
Yeah, so the recording will be uploaded and shared with you, the URL.
Okay, that will be uploaded with the total session recording, right?
Sorry?
Yeah, I mean, sir, total session will be recorded and be available later to us.
Yes, of course.
Okay, then. Thank you very much.
And Toyota first started experimenting with the Kanban around 1940. And during this time, they were trying to find the ways how can they optimize their manufacturing system into the assembly line. And they did a very deep research on how the supermarkets were managing their inventory and the sales. So when they analyzed the supermarket, which is very, very unlikely source of information for them at that particular time. So they noticed that in the supermarket, the customers who are getting into a supermarket were picking up the items and the racks were being emptied. And as soon as the racks were about to be emptied, the store person will refill it. And when their store inventory was about to get empty, that's where they used to order to the supplier to refill the inventory. So that kind of excited the Toyota engineers to apply the same principle in their manufacturing, because what it did is that it does not force the supermarkets to keep the stock of the items which are not in demand. So they were only ordering the items which were selling fast and getting emptied into the racks. And that's where Toyota started using the same method in their manufacturing assembly line, where spare parts which are being emptied while assembling the cars were refilled and then ordered by the vendors of the Toyota at that time. So this was the just-in-time JIT method which Toyota mastered, and they are still pioneer in having the just-in-time manufacturing assembly line. So the primary principle of creating a Kanban system is visualizing the workflow. As the term itself stands in Japanese, that this is a translation of the signboard or the card system. So it's very important that the team or the company which are trying to have this system in place, they need to first very pictorially need to depict their existing system, how the work is flowing in various stages when it from the requirement to the complete done. And there are various techniques to do this. There's a value stream creation which many companies do, where they identify their systems, how the work is flowing, and in the various columns they just put the work items in place. So what it helps is companies are able to see if there are any queues being created, what is holding up their throughput. So visualizing of the workflow is very, very important. Another key differentiator of Kanban to the other methodologies is the pull versus push. Normally what happens is it's the push flow if we briefly compare it with the Scrum or other methodologies, where team just identifies okay what they'll be doing, and the entire work is being pushed into the downstream functions of the development. But what happens is in Kanban is companies create the to-do items, what are the items to be completed for their work system, and the downstream functions just pull it as and when they have the free slot to work on it. So that's a pull system in Kanban. So this is the same analogy what I talked about, the supermarket analysis what Toyota did. So it's only pulled by the customer when the rack gets empty, it's being filled up. So what it does is it only allows items to be picked up when team has the capacity. So it ensures that the work is not getting piled up in a certain point. It's a very simple tool, but at the same time it's very, very powerful, because what happens is pictures is always worth of 1,000 words, and the brain processes the visual information the 60,000 times faster than the text what our brain processes. So giving a pictorial representation of the workflow is very, very crucial, and that's why it helps the teams to identify what are the roadblocks team is facing, if suppose there are any roadblocks in the system. And another statistics is the 40% of all the nerve fibers what we have connected to the brain are linked to the retina. So whatever we see as a picture, it kind of registers in our mind, and that's where the Kanban board, the pictorial representation of the Kanban board having the workflow item always helps. So let's get into the principles behind what exactly the Kanban system will incorporate. So when companies or teams create their Kanban board, they start with what they already know about their system. So they do a detailed analysis of their existing workflow, because they know what they are doing, and this will require each and every item which needs to be done to be using a sticky note or something just put on the board. And because this is a process where team is just documenting what they already know, and this is not a revolution. This will be a very, very evolutionary phase, and teams will be doing a very incremental changes as they proceed with the Kanban method. Because to reach where teams want to go, they first fully need to understand where they are exactly. So you start with what do you know. Agree to pursue incremental and evolutionary changes, because we cannot start with a big bang overhaul of the system. So we will talk more about how it is incremental and not making big changes in a single point of time. Respect the current processes, roles, responsibilities, and titles, because Kanban is a very, very adaptive form of developing systems. It's not too much prescriptive. And so no need to have a very defined roles and responsibilities to make sure that, whoever team does the Kanban, you need not to have a scrum master, product owner, those. So just have whatever roles and functions you have in your current organizations, and those should be able to help when team make their Kanban process in working. Leadership at all the levels need to be encouraged, because what it helps is when you put your current system in a Kanban board, there are a lot of engagement and the discussions happens, and it helps team to question if there are any bottlenecks. So leadership or anyone giving a suggestion, it needs to be welcomed. So this we talked about. The visualization of the workflow is very, very important to start the Kanban board. This is very key term, which is the work in progress limit. And this need to be very closely monitored and changed and tweaked based on how the work is flowing into the system. So let me briefly explain what the work in progress limit is all about. We saw the brief picture of the Kanban board where we have the to do, doing, and done items. And work in progress limit is defined at the each column of the Kanban board. What it means exactly is that certain column of the Kanban board cannot have items in progress more than defined into the work in progress limit. So this ensures that team is only picking up the items which they have the capacity to work with. If suppose they pull too many items more than the work in progress limits, then the things will be keep piling up. So that's where if suppose it's they have items complete and they are holding up something and queue is getting increased, it's a responsibility of the entire team to clear that blockage and make sure that only the work in progress limit items are being worked upon. This also gives an input to the teams that do they really need to change the WIP items for certain work columns. So managed flow we talked about. So having a proper work in progress limit also ensures that the flow is managed from start to end. Okay. Make process policies explicit. This is a very agile principle where team need to display what exactly they mean by their work procedures need to be displayed to everyone. If suppose they say that this item is done by so and so means, and the done criteria, what exactly collectively team defines when this item will be complete. So all those checklist processes and everything need to be explicit. There should not be any areas which leads the room for the assumptions. Okay. And collaboration is very, very important. Suggestions are welcome from everyone, because everybody knows what others are working on. All the information is out there in public. So it's very important that ideas are welcomed, and that's where team improves on defining the system. So let's look at the Kanban and agile relationship. So at a broad level, the agile umbrella has many techniques under it, and Scrum is very widely popular. Kanban is another, and there are FTD, rational unified process, extreme programming, and Kanban is one of those. And if you see the number of prescriptions which are applied on the different techniques, the Kanban is kind of sits at the very bottom of the list. So what does it mean is that Kanban does not enforce that team need to have certain roles, responsibilities, ceremonies to be done to have this system in place. So it's very, very flexible, but at the same time, team need to ensure that they abide by the principles so that they improve with the collaboration and making sure everybody's participation is there. Because it will not say that you need to have your story point estimation done, or you need to have a product owner, or you have to have a daily stand-up for 15 minutes. No. So Kanban does not prescribe all those all those practices to be enforced. So it's very, very adaptive in terms of nature, and very least prescriptive. So that's a brief introduction on Kanban, and I'm sure we'll understand the things a little more in detail as we go through the creation of the Kanban board using a tool. Any questions from anyone in the audience before we start creating the Kanban board?
Yeah, Manish, this is Vineet Pradhan. I have a question that while discussing this entire thing, will we be going out on the granular like this in this discussion, like how do we make the burn down charts and all during this the development with any of any system in agile when we come across a term?
Hey Vineet, your voice is very fuzzy. I'm not able to make out exactly what you're speaking.
I'm saying that while having this session today, is it
Sorry,
audible?
come again.
I'm saying that we will be while having this session today for this Kanban board, sample session on Kanban board, will we discuss?
Yes, we will.
Yeah, will we discuss regarding this burn down chart?
You mean burn down?
Chart.
Burn down chart. Okay. So again, this is again leads down to the more adaptive nature of the Kanban. So it's not recommended that team have to have a Kanban, this burn down chart in place, because burn down chart is primarily used when you are time boxing your development cycle. Like for a Scrum based project where you have a 2-week or a 3-week sprint cycle,
Yeah.
and you have a start and end point. But in Kanban system, it's a throughput yield which matters, and there are different metrics which are more important than the burn down chart in Kanban. For example, taking an item from the to-do column to the done column, how much time does it take this work item to complete from start to do to done? That is called the cycle time and the lead time, right? So that is the very important metrics which is important to the Kanban system rather than the burn down chart. But at the same time, I have also seen companies applying the Kanban system into the Scrum practices. I mean, the team who are following Scrum, they can use the Kanban board to track their work items, which term is called Scrumban, right? So in that case, definitely team can create the burn down chart where they put their velocity and on top, and as they complete the item, the the chart is getting updated in terms of how much more is left to complete before the sprint cycle ends. But to answer your question, because we don't have a fixed time boxed development cycle in Kanban, so the burn down chart does not make that sense. Rather than calculating the cycle time or the lead time, gives more input to the team where they always try to improve that cycle time from their previous data. Does that answer?
Yeah, actually, because I just wanted to know. Actually, I have seen the burn down chart. Actually, I'm working in Agile. At end of the cycle, I see a burn down chart that is being pasted on the Scrum of some work board. And just wanted to know that how, or based on what they make this burn down chart, means what statistics they use to make this burn down chart. Actually, I haven't understood the burn down chart now.
Right. No, actually, as I mentioned, so during the Scrum project, team normally uses the Kanban board where all the the user stories and the task under it are put onto a board using the sticky notes. And how the burn down is created in this scenario is they have the story points summed up, which are there committed for the sprint. So that's where they have the starting point of the burn down. Say total 100 story points are there for the for the sprint. And as and when the stories are being complete, the numbers keep reducing in it, right? And that's how the burn down chart is created. Beneath.
Okay.
Thank you. Welcome. All right. Let me share my browser so that we just go through the creation of the Kanban board. Okay. Are you all able to see the screen?
Yeah, we are.
Perfect. So this is the open source tool Trello, which is very nice to have and free to use. So I will be using this tool to show you how the Kanban board is created and different concepts around it. Okay. Okay, so let's name the board. We will be using the concept of the personal Kanban for this sample exercise purpose. And in our day-to-day life, we'll see how we can apply the Kanban method and create a board and see how it might help. So if we just take a moment and think that in any given day, what are the different tasks we do? And if we start creating a different sticky notes and keep pasting it, the picture will be very, very fuzzy in the sense that there will be 50 or 60 items which are kind of jumbled up in our head, and we'll not be able to do the priority of the items because we'll be always thinking and stretching our mind to think which items are the topmost priority because the picture is not clear in our head, right? And this leads, so let's just create the columns we talked about in our list. So we just say to do, doing, and done. Okay, so I'm just creating multiple to-do items, which are nothing but the Kanban cards onto the board. So this is a very neat way of looking at the to-do items. But if suppose we don't have this board in place, so we'll be always trying to just think in our head that which are the items which are important for us to do, and that's where visualizing the items is very, very important. So what it helps is the to-do column. Right now we have all the items in a kind of a stacked column. So when we see those items into a stacked column, it always helps us in ensuring that, okay, this item I need to do first, this is related to another item, and which item I need to pick up first. So putting into a picture of items to be done is the first step in creating a Kanban board, and it always helps in picking up the top priority items first. Okay, and so when we start it, let's see, we think, okay, this item I'll be picking up and work on it. And then I say, okay, this is another item I can pick up. Then I think, oh, this is the investment I need to do. So I pick. So when I start, I just pick up many items and put into the doing column. So when I do it, I see that the doing column again gets very, very fuzzy because I have picked up the items which is which are more than the capacity which I have, right? So this again does not help. It's kind of back into the same problem where I have picked up the items and not able to prioritize what I should be working on. So this brings the second key principle of Kanban, which is, first was the visualization of the workflow, right? So we did put all the items to be done into the to-do column. So I am able to see in a picture level, okay, what all items I need to work on today. And in the doing column, if I pick up more items which I can actually accomplish during a day, that doesn't help, right? Again, I will be struggling with items which I need to do, and I will not be able to prioritize. So it's important that I define the capacity, or what we call is the work in progress, for the doing column now. Say based on my capacity and the time I have, I say I'll not be able to do more than 3 items at a given point of time. Because as human being, we don't like work to be done in a rush manner. We always want to pick up a task, do it completely, and then move on and pick the next item. Because we don't want to be in a situation where we rush the item and think, oh, I could have done it better, right? So when I say, okay, my doing work in progress limit is 3, then I say, okay, this item, I don't want to do it now. This item, I can pick it up later. So now I have my 3 items which are into the doing column, which I think I should be working on. And when I go through my day, I just complete this item. So I move into the done column. And now it gives me a space of, 1 item, because my work WIP limit is 3 for this. So then I say, okay, this is another priority item which I can pick up now. So I just move into the doing column. I mark another item as done. And as soon as I'm just completing the item, I'm just picking up the items from the backlog and moving it to the done column. So how it is helping is, it's giving me a flow, and I'm not creating an unnecessary backlog queue in the doing column and confusing myself by not picking up the item which I can actually do. So that's a very simple but very powerful when you apply this concept into a larger team. Think of a scenario where you have multiple developers and the QA people working in their projects, and developer team has picked up the item because they have the capacity, but the QA resources are less in number and cannot pick the item what the development team is doing, right? So the work will be start piling up on their side. So it's very important that based on the capacity of the teams at a certain column, we define the work in progress limit. And as I mentioned, it's a very, very evolutionary process. As the team progresses through the board, they will know, okay, this area is creating a bottleneck, so let's reduce the work in progress limit. Or a certain team is waiting too much to items to be picked up from the other team, increase the work in progress limit for those. So that's how it helps. So coming back to our personal Kanban board, so what we can do is, now we have the items to do, but it could be having many items in place, right? So what helps is, what we can do, we can just add another column called today in between. Okay, so out of those items, say 7 items, not all will be ready to be picked up for me to be today. So if I start my day and I look at the to-do items, which are say too many numbers, for me to prioritize the items, it will be very, very tedious task. So what I can always do is, I can just pick the items which are very, very important for me today and just keep in this column. Okay. So what it helps is, and here also I can say, okay, I do not want to waste unnecessary time in creating today's to-do list, I say, oh, I will have the work in progress limit of only 3. So I only have the items which are very, very important for me. So my to-do items will be always keep evolving. I'll be keep adding items so that I don't forget. I'm doing my work during the day. Some items comes up. I just create a card into the to-do list, which is kind of ever increasing backlog. But it also helps that things do not slip out of the cracks, right? But the today list will be the item which are just important for the day, and which helps, and I do not waste time in creating and picking up the items into the doing column. So as the things progress, you can also start say ready column. So here you can just keep the item which are ready to be picked up, but it could not be a day's priority. But you can always just keep refining your backlog in a way that it just take away the tediousness of the items to be picked up on a daily basis. And as you go through, keep moving the items through the board, and manage the workflow based on the WIP limits which you have set up. So visualization of the workflow is one key principle, then setting up the work in progress limit. Another thing what helps a team is always create the colored Kanban board. So you have certain items which you want to group together. You can always define the labels for them with the different colors. Because when you look at the board, you will be able to clearly see, okay, these are the items which are very important for me. And you can always just seek, okay, this is today's item which is very hot for me at the moment. So what you do is you just mark them as red. And as you look at the board, you'll say these different colored items will always grab your attention, and you'll always give the due priority for those items by color coding the different work items. Another important trick I've seen teams following is put items which are very, very date bound. If suppose the item number 7 needs to be completed into the system, so this we are only talking about the day's task, right? But if you see, okay, this item I need to complete not later than 18th, put a date onto the card. So you always look at the items which are having a date bound, so it helps in picking up during the prioritization what team does, right? And it ensures that team sticks to the completion date of those items while picking it up. Yeah, so there's a brief about creating the Kanban board. So let me just rephrase the key principle in creating the board. So visualization of the workflow is very, very essential, because when you have the items in a picture view, it will help you identify the bottlenecks, and you will always keep in reviewing and enhancing your backlog when it is there in front of your eyes. Defining the work in progress limit is another very important parameter, which ensures that team is not picking up the item which they can accomplish, and it will ensure the consistent throughput across the Kanban channel. And using the different color codes to highlight the grouping of the work items, and making sure that the priority items are picked up. And set a key information onto the various work item sticky notes, like the target completion date, or any owner of the task, or any other vital information which could help team when they look at the Kanban board. Okay, any questions? I think let's make it more interactive. If you have any questions on the Kanban principles we talk about and creation of the Kanban board.
The one is Vinit this side.
Yes, Sunil.
Actually, as you told, in this Kanban board, we are using colors, right?
Yes.
For the priority tasks. While working in Scrum also, we use sticky notes. They use different color sticky notes like green, pink, then cyan. Is there any significance on for the same on sticky notes as per priority? Because they use like we are using green assets for developing business classes, then maybe pink for their writing the unit test cases, and then some other color for like writing validators or something. But they are using it for different type of development. Means one for developing the business services, then for validating them another step, then for testing the user another. But should this be used for, like you said, the red one is for priority, and that is on a date. So should
Okay.
those be used for priority basis, or maybe just to divide them, or to identify what different sectors you are working on?
Okay. So, Vinny, there is no standard, industry standard for, various workflows, which color to be used. It's very, very, it's specific to the team. But as you rightly mentioned that it helps couple of purposes. One thing is the related work items should be using the same color coding. So if suppose team is looking at a green for the web services or something for the SOAP UI. So looking at the board, they will always be able to see the item. Okay, this is green related to it, and how it is moving in different columns, right? So grouping is one purpose. I have seen the roadblocks item, the impediment team is facing. Most of the teams have been using the red sticky notes because red is kind of a color of a danger. So team is always get their attention on the bright color notes like the red for the blocker item. But yeah, so it's up to the team. I think what works for them. Different teams use colors differently, but grouping definitely helps in one way for the team, and using the red for the blockers is another. I've also seen the different post-its, how they have been feeling doing a certain user story. If suppose team is very disappointed in working on a user story for whatever reason, they just put the sad face on top of it. Or if suppose something is very excited, or one story kind of pleases the team more, they just put a smiley on top of it. So how these different symbols help team is when they do the retrospective or do the review of the work what they have done. So whoever is the leader of the board, like I won't use the term Scrum Master here. So whoever is the leader of the Kanban team, they pick up those clues from the Kanban board and do the retrospective. Okay, if suppose team did not feel good in developing certain user story, what could be the reason of it, right? Or if suppose something is very very pleasing the team, let's keep continuing those things. So I think it's very very evolutionary, and whatever works for the team, they should just continue using those. Different techniques for different people.
Okay, as per Agile, one question here. As per Agile, we're using these function points, like how much work to be done in one iteration. Where, as you mentioned, where you have got 10 tasks to do in the to-do list, and in certain, like today you are trying to achieve 3 tasks, then again tomorrow 4 tasks, and that is, let us suppose it's a total time period was for 3 days. You have to achieve all the tasks, all the 10 tasks. In case we have not achieved all out of 10, we have achieved 7 to 8 tasks, and 2 are left. So we can maybe carry it forward to the next iteration, or maybe the next to-do list, so which can be completed. But just wanted to ask, out of 100%, how much percentage of work can be transferred to the next to-do list, maximum or minimum?
Okay, so I think you are mixing two concepts here. So when you talk about how much can be carried forward, so I think you are talking from the Scrum practices where team have the sprint one and they have completed say 80% of the items into the sprint, and they carry forward the remaining 20% into the next sprint. So that's a different, the method altogether. We'll not talk about the Scrum in detail here, but yeah, team do carry forward. In the Scrum, what happens is it's not important because it's not a time box, right? So we are not saying how much team will accomplish in a month or in a week. So what the key indicator of a Kanban board is the cycle time of one item. So I think it's a very good question, because I did not talk about how does the team do a estimation in a Kanban system. So there's no prescribed way, but what the successful teams normally do is they break down their backlog in such a way that all the items are of roughly same size. The reason for doing that is when the item moves from to do to done flow, the time is called the cycle time or the lead time. And team always have a very close eye on what is the cycle time of certain items. If you have too much of a variation of the workflow items in the backlog, so the bigger items will take more to do, and the smaller items will be the smaller, take the less cycle time. The team will not be able to pinpoint, how do they improve the cycle time or the lead time. It's important that the workflow items into the backlog of a Kanban board should be of the same size. And now, once that is in place, now the focus should be how do we reduce the cycle or lead time using the work in progress. So there is no concept of calling, the carry forward item, because it's a continuous throughput. Team is continuously churning out items on a daily basis and moving those into a done. So whenever the item is done, team can always, hit the production or whatever decision they want to take on the completed items.
So my question was exactly that. Suppose for a specific period of time, we have for certain tasks. Out of that, we know we can accomplish only 80%, but 20% we cannot accomplish. So what we do, we try to put it in the next cycle. So that's what I was asking. That maximum, how much can you put in next cycle? We cannot put around 50% or 60%. We can put maybe around.
Right. So team always picks up the card based on their capacity, right? And capacity we are controlling here using the work in progress limit. So suppose in the today column, we have, in the doing column, we have 3 items, right? And if suppose right now I have say 6 and 7, which is the 2 cards. So I can pick one more, right? But now I will be waiting for any of the work item to complete before I make a decision to pick another card. So I will always be sticking to my work in progress limit. But if suppose I am becoming more efficient in doing my work, and I think rather than 3, I am able to complete 4 cards in a day, right? So what I will do is I'll just increase my doing work in progress limit to 4. And now I will be able to pick one more item from backlog to my doing column. What it will help is, it will help my throughput yield. So the way in the rate I'm churning out the items to the done column will be increased, and my cycle time will be reduced. So it's a continuous process beneath. So based on the WIP limit, we'll be keep picking items from the backlog.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions from anyone? No. So if there are no questions, I think that's it for this webinar on Kanban and creating a sample Kanban board. And Abhishek from Tech and yeah, sure. Good.
Yeah, just you may not get the impression that I'm relating Kanban with Agile. Means in Agile development, actually, we have a cycle that we are developing and delivering our function points in around 15 days. Hello?
Okay.
Yeah, for the time we were allowing developing in 15 days, just wanted to ask that 15 days is 15 working days, or we can include weekends as well? Minimum is 15 days. or maybe there is more minimum should be more than 15 days for any kind of development cycle.
I'm not sure if I got your question. So when you say you are using agile, so you are using Scrum as a practice, right?
Yeah, right, right.
Okay. And if you're using Scrum, then you will be definitely using the story point as an estimation in your team, correct?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just wanted to know that Scrum has been developed and what has been defined. Minimum the working period should be 15 days, or the minimum working period is more than 15 days.
No. So, the Scrum or the sprint cycle can be between 1 week to 4 weeks. So it should
Okay.
not be less than a week, because less than a week, it will be a too short cycle for make the item complete, done, dev and QA. And more than 4 weeks is always too big a duration where, team can track the work item. So anywhere between 1 week to 4 weeks is a good time to have a sprint cycle.
Like we're in the software industry means if you're counting on 2 weeks means we are having 10 working days.
Right.
So what happened that we actually we get the estimation from the work from the client for 15 days, but we are having working days for 10 days. So we have to go on the weekends. So that makes it a bit difficult to meet the targets and maybe continue the cycle for a longer period of time.
Right. So that's a very, the very common problem what the team faces. So that's a problem of the overcommitting the scope of the sprint. If suppose team has the 10 days of a sprint cycle, which normally takes them ideally for the 15 days to complete. So I think team should commit less, or if they think they actually need 15 days to make sure the items are done, they should make a very conscious decision of changing their sprint cycle from 2 weeks to 3 weeks, which is 10 working days to 15 working days. And agile is always, trying and adapting. And if 3 weeks sprint cycle works for them, I think then they should continue doing it. It's very important they are not under committing or over committing.
Yeah. So we also put the time
That's the only
hours
way
on the
to
schedule.
sustain the pace. Mm-hmm.
We just wanted because we are just on the kids were mentioning the working hours, so it's all I mean, not sometimes but always difficult to means meet the timings every time.
Yeah, as I mentioned, it's a learning for the Scrum teams. If suppose they are not able to meet the items, I think we talked about the earlier question being asked. If suppose team is not able to complete all the items which they have committed for, they always, they carry forward the remaining items into the next sprint. But if suppose there is a hard stop of completing into that sprint itself, then team on some time, struggles and stretch their working hours. But that's not sustainable over the long period of time. So rather than stretching the working hours to meet the sprint goal, it's always a good practice to learn from it and then committing less into the future sprints.
Yes,
So that whatever team is committing is complete.
yes. That's it for myself.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions from anyone? If not, thanks everyone for joining and listening.